Right now, Warsaw is experiencing one of the most dramatic economic and military ascents Europe has seen since the end of the Cold War. Some analysts will tell you that calling this country a superpower is too bold, too early, or simply too large a term for a European state. But even those skeptics acknowledge the same thing. This country is rising rapidly into a tier few thought it could reach, reshaping defense planning across the continent and building an economic engine that continues to outpace much of Western Europe. And whether one agrees with its politics or not, one fact is undeniable. Poland is becoming impossible to ignore. To understand how fast the transformation is happening, you have to start with the economy. That is where the foundation was built. For most of the 20th century, Poland was trapped behind the Iron Curtain. Central planning froze innovation, growth stagnated, opportunity was limited. But when the country broke free in 1989, it committed itself to one of the most ambitious economic transitions ever attempted in Europe. The first years were harsh, but the long-term outcome is now clear. According to the European Commission, Poland is the sixth largest economy in the European Union. The World Bank calls it one of the most successful economic transitions of the past 50 years. A country whose GDP has more than tripled since joining the EU in 2004. And the momentum continues. Forecasts from the IMF, OECD, and Polish government project growth rates that consistently outperform Western European economies. Analysts have pointed out that if current trends continue, Poland could reach or surpass the per capita income levels of Spain and Italy within a few years. These projections are based on convergence models used by European institutions and on the economic performance the country has already demonstrated. The reasons for this growth run far deeper than luck. This is an economy built on manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, logistics, and a rapidly expanding tech sector. IT spending has risen to around 4.5% of GDP, placing Warsaw among Europe's leaders in digital development. Meanwhile, Poland's decision to retain the zloty instead of adopting the euro continues to give it monetary flexibility during times of crisis, a point highlighted repeatedly by economists during global financial disruptions. But one of the biggest accelerators has been European Union funding. Through modernization and recovery programs, Poland has received more than 50 billion euros in EU support for infrastructure, science, digitalization, and clean energy. The European Commission lists Poland as one of the largest recipients of EU cohesion funds in the entire bloc. The results are visible throughout the country. New rail networks, modern highways, research hubs, renewable energy facilities. Billions invested into energy transition and technology. According to Poland's Ministry of Funds and Regional Policy, investments for 2025 alone exceed 700 billion zloty. This is not just economic growth, it is economic transformation. And it explains how Warsaw can afford something else that is reshaping the continent. A military buildup that Europe has not seen in decades. For years, Poland was considered a mid-level NATO member, a country with capable but aging equipment, limited budgets, and an uncertain long-term strategic role. That era is over. NATO reporting shows that Warsaw now spends more than 4% of its GDP on defense, the highest share among all European allies. The government has stated this will rise toward 5% in 2025, a level unmatched in Europe since the Cold War. This is not symbolic spending. It is hard power. Procurement records confirm massive deliveries of new weapon systems. South Korea is sending one of the world's largest shipments of K-2 Black Panther tanks and K-9 howitzers. The United States is delivering Abrams tanks, F-35 stealth fighters, Apache attack helicopters, Patriot air defense systems, and HIMARS rocket artillery. Germany, the United Kingdom, and Italy are providing additional components and support packages. When these procurement cycles are completed, Poland will operate close to 1,000 modern tanks, a figure that will exceed many larger European powers. This modernization did not emerge in a vacuum. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 changed Poland's strategic calculus overnight. For Warsaw, this was not a distant war. It was a direct threat on its border, and it confirmed warnings Polish officials had voiced for years. Poland responded by becoming one of Kiev's strongest supporters. It sent T-72 tanks, Crab howitzers, armored vehicles, MiG-29 fighters, and billions in aid. But these donations were not only acts of solidarity, they were part of a deliberate modernization plan. Warsaw was clearing Soviet-era systems from its arsenal so they could be replaced with Western and South Korean equipment. The result is a military fundamentally different from the one Warsaw fielded a decade ago. It is becoming one of Europe's largest armies by personnel, with plans to expand active forces to around 300,000. Analysts at institutions such as CSIS and RUSI note that the country is building a high-readiness, high-firepower model similar to nations that sit on major geopolitical fault lines. The goal is not symbolic deterrence or political signaling. The goal is operational capability in a real conflict. This shift is happening at the same time Europe is undergoing its own transformation. NATO's center of gravity is moving east, and Poland is becoming essential to that transition. Nearly every major supply route to Ukraine moves through Polish territory. American and European equipment is pre-positioned in Polish bases. New NATO battle groups are being established across the eastern flank, with Warsaw often serving as the logistical backbone. The Suwałki Corridor, one of the alliance's most strategically sensitive points, lies in Poland. As Finland and Sweden join NATO and other frontline states increase their defenses, Poland's role as the connective force holding the eastern flank together becomes increasingly critical. But Poland's rise is not only military or economic, it is also industrial. Warsaw is not satisfied with simply buying weapons. It wants to build them. South Korean tanks and howitzers are already being produced under license in Polish factories. Domestic drone manufacturers are expanding rapidly. Ammunition and armored vehicle production lines are scaling up. Maintenance hubs for Ukrainian and NATO equipment are being constructed nationwide. Analysts writing for the Financial Times, Politico, and Dziennik Gazeta Prawna suggest that if this industrial expansion succeeds, Poland could become one of Europe's primary defense suppliers for decades. This matters because Europe faces severe defense production shortages. Ammunition stocks are low. Procurement cycles are slow. Many European countries allowed their industrial bases to shrink. Poland is stepping into that vacuum and positioning itself as a continental arsenal. Yet even this does not capture the full scope of Poland's rise. There is a geopolitical dimension unfolding beneath the surface. Central Europe is becoming more relevant, with countries like the Czech Republic, Slovakia, the Baltics, and Romania upgrading their militaries and industrial capacities. Poland sits at the center of these networks. Cooperation within the Visegrad Group, the Three Seas Initiative, and the EU's new defense programs is creating a framework where Warsaw can leverage its position as a regional leader. Energy security is another critical factor. For decades, Russia used gas pipelines as leverage over Central Europe, but Warsaw was one of the first to build LNG terminals, diversify suppliers, and connect itself to Norwegian gas pipelines. When Russia cut off Europe's gas supplies, Poland was among the least affected. This resilience strengthens its geopolitical role because energy independence reduces vulnerability and increases strategic freedom. There is also a demographic angle. While Europe faces aging populations, Warsaw benefits from a comparatively young workforce and substantial immigration inflows, particularly from Ukraine and Belarus. These workers support Poland's manufacturing and service sectors. They also strengthen the tax base that funds defense and infrastructure. At the political level, Poland's assertiveness has reshaped debates inside NATO and the European Union. Where Western Europe once dominated policy direction, Warsaw is increasingly setting the tone on security matters. It has become one of the loudest voices calling for stronger defenses, tougher sanctions on Russia, and greater support for Ukraine. This has sometimes caused friction with Berlin and Paris, but it has also demonstrated something important. Poland is no longer content to follow. It intends to lead. Of course, every rise faces obstacles. Poland's debt levels must be managed carefully. Political shifts at home can influence priorities. Industrial expansion requires long-term stability. And relations with the EU still involve disagreements on governance and legal frameworks. But none of these challenges change the basic trajectory visible in the data. Warsaw is building economic capacity, military strength, energy resilience, and industrial might at a pace few European states can match. This is why economists, strategists, and defense analysts across Europe and North America are paying attention. The rise of Poland is not a temporary spike or a momentary surge. It is a structural shift, a long-term transformation driven by decades of investment, geographic necessity, and lessons learned from its own history. What makes this story unique is that Poland is not trying to recreate the past. It is not chasing nostalgic visions or symbolic victories. It is preparing for the world that is emerging now. A world where global power is shifting. A world where security cannot be taken for granted. A world where the center of Europe's strategic gravity is moving eastward. That shift is already visible. It appears in defense budgets, in industrial production rates, in NATO's deployments, in economic forecasts, and in the changing expectations of Poland's allies and rivals. A decade ago, Warsaw was seen as a reliable NATO member. Today, it is viewed as one of the alliance's most important pillars. This transformation did not happen overnight, but its impact is being felt all at once, and Europe is beginning to understand something Warsaw has understood for years. Power does not wait. Power is built, quietly, steadily, relentlessly, until one day the balance changes and everyone realizes that the center of gravity has moved. For Europe, that center is moving east, and it is moving toward Poland.